Plataforma de información musical y radio online. Rutas Alternas. Escucha.
En esta oportunidad para Rutas Alternas tenemos el gusto de saludar desde Brooklyn, en Nueva York, a Mia Berrin, integrante de Pom Pom Squad, quienes están muy próximos a mostrar nuevo disco, tienen música nueva circulando, un nuevo videoclip, y para platicarnos de todo ello saludamos en esta videollamada a Mia. Hola, Mia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good.
Where are you right now?
I am in Brooklyn, New York, in my apartment.
Great. So it's amazing that you have a new single and you will release a new album in June, right?
Yeah, thank you.
What can you tell us about the creative process of making your new album? Do you make it during the pandemic, or how was the work?
Yeah, I actually did make most of it during the pandemic. Some of it are songs that I've had written since I was like, at the earliest Lux I wrote when I was 16. And at the latest, I wrote maybe 2-3 weeks before we went to record. But the thing that was different about the creative process for this one specifically was in the past, when I write, usually I'll take a song to band practice and we'll all work on it together. But that wasn't an option. So a lot of the music I had to work on alone with me, my laptop and my guitar. So it is really bizarre and hard to adjust to, but ultimately gave me a lot of room to explore my skills as a producer, aside from just as a musician and an artist.
I read that you work with Sarah Tutsin to make the production, and you are co-producer of the album. How was the interaction with her?
Yeah, it was amazing. She's so funny and bizarre, and just such a good pal, and also incredibly talented and professional. She really knows what she's doing, and she's had a lot more experience than I have. So to get to share that credit with her even partially is a big honor for me. And she taught me a lot. I really learned a lot from just watching her work ethic.
And what have you learned to being a co-producer of the album? Because you need to hear and to see the work in other point of view, and maybe being more critic about your music. I don't know. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I'm extremely critical of myself anyway, so it's easy to be hypercritical of myself. I don't really have, any kind of hypersensitivity in that way, because I tend to be my own worst critic. But I learned a lot about, how to run a room, specifically, the human interaction part of it is how to get the musicians in the room to feel comfortable, how to make myself feel comfortable around people that I've never recorded with before. I think that was sort of one of my biggest challenges going into the recording process, was my own shyness and my own insecurity, and walking into a room and feeling like, I don't deserve to be there. And so as the producer, if I'm producing somebody else who's playing another instrument on the record, which we had, a couple people come in to do more orchestral instruments, which was really fun. Getting to kind of gauge their comfort level and help them feel comfortable enough to perform under the circumstances and get a good take. I think part of it is the technical side, and the other part of it is the emotional side, getting a performance and creating a story that, that you want to tell. Because ultimately, being a producer is a kind of nerdy part of it. And if somebody wants to, it's like 1 in 100 people is going to be like, what microphone did you use on the bass drum? And 99 out of 100 people are going to be like, wow, how did you get that to sound like that? How did you get that person to get so emotional when that tape? You know what I mean?
Yes.
I feel like there's a lot more that goes into it than I thought, and kind of being there with Sarah and watching her engineer and really nail the technical side of it, and hearing her notes and feedback on my own performance. It was just all really exciting and scary, and I'm really proud of what we were able to get.
Of course, at the end, it's very important, these kind of tools, this technology, to give the sound that you want to play, that you want to, that the songs needs, right? But
Yeah.
it's also very important to catch the emotions and to connect the emotions with other people. What's important for you to share more emotions now that we are in a pandemic times, beside a normal era? Because a lot of us have been in lockdown, dealing with ourselves, with our own problems, maybe bigger and bigger. And how important was for you when you write your lyrics?
Yeah, in terms of exploring my own emotions or in terms of thinking about other people's emotions?
Maybe you as a creator, I know that you can connect with other people when you share your emotion, but you as a creator, was that important? You feel more emotional than in other moments?
It definitely was important. I think, especially because, as you said, being in the pandemic, everything is a little bit more heightened. And you have nothing but time to think about, situations that maybe haven't affected you for 4, 5, 6, however many years. Um, Writing the album really did help me process a lot of the events that were coming up. Where I feel like usually during the what we what used to be normal, what I don't know if we'll come back, but what used to be normal is if you wanted to not think about something you went through, you could kind of go distract yourself and you could go to a show, you could go to a bar, you could go hang out with your friends. And this was the complete opposite, where you have really no choice but to face yourself. And I think in facing myself, I came to a lot of the realizations that informed these songs, and that created the album as I know it. So
Mia, your first single, "Death of a Cheerleader." Well, you released a previous song, "Looks," and now you're releasing "Death of a Cheerleader." Is that a tricky title, a tricky concept about the whole album?
yeah, yeah. You said the concept of the album from the title, you mean?
Yes, the songs, this song, "Death of a Cheerleader," that have a connection with the whole narrative of the album. But the song itself, it's a little tricky because it has a double meaning, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. So the song had cheerleader. Yeah. So "Death of a Cheerleader," as an album to me, the title means basically, it's about abandoning a version of myself that I felt that I had to occupy to be seen as, like, a good girl or like the good woman. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
I don't feel like I fit into the conventional idea of kind of white American womanhood. And the cheerleader kind of represented that for me. The song "Head Cheerleader," which was the single, you know, um, that song kind of is like a thesis statement for what I do, in a way of, the cheerleader as a symbol for me has been like the oppressor in some ways, and the kind of goal in other ways. I think the kind of image of a cheerleader in general really represents something super specific in American culture. And to have played with that character and explored that character, over the past 5 years that Pom Pom Squad has existed, it feels exciting to kind of get to explore that a little bit more openly and in a little bit more of a meta way. I think
Yes.
that is kind of the double meaning in the title.
Just because it's very important nowadays to break these stereotypes, to break a lot of things that have made us a dark society in some ways. And it's very important to talk about it, to talk about the gender feminism, about the society, about who we are in front of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think, I was just talking about the fact that, the stories that we tell really do have an effect on culture. It's the same way, we all grow up hearing fairy tales as the ways that we learn, a lesson about what to do and what not to do. We feel, we use TV and music and movies in the exact same way now, where if you're shown, well, the only people who are attractive are the cheerleaders. You're going to grow up thinking the only people that are attractive are the cheerleaders. And if you're taught, well, women do this and men do that, you're going to grow up thinking, okay, women only do this and men only do that. But it's just not the case. There's a million stories, millions and trillions of stories that exist in this world, and human experience is so varied and so different for every individual that I think it's important that we start to tell stories that break convention, because they exist. It's not a fantasy to say that there are women who can be in positions of power, to there are women who can be strong, there are women who can be beautiful, there are women who can be shitty. It's like there's so many different kinds of human beings that to define any kind of marginalized person by one facet of their existence is a disservice completely.
Absolutely. And Mia, what can you tell us about the video of your latest single, Head Cheerleader? It's in some way about what you're saying, right?
Yeah, that video is really fun. I mean, I think, it is. It's basically about what I'm saying, but just explored in a lot more of a weird, funny way.
But funny and interesting and very clever.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I think, these lessons are hard, and I think ultimately when we can tell them with love and humor and beauty, that's kind of what I look for and try. It's like eating your medicine with a spoonful of sugar. I think I think the video is just really, really fun to make, and I got to play with the idea of death, which again is this big, scary, horrifying, dark thing, and approach it through the lens of growth and change. And that was just really, a really exciting opportunity for me as a person.
So are you gonna release some singles before the launch of the album?
Yeah, we have one more single.
Okay.
Left.
We can listen the album on June 25, Death of a Cheerleader, through City Slang Records. How was working with them?
Amazing. I love City Slang. I really, really do. I think I was super scared to sign to a label ever at all, because all I've ever heard were horror stories about people never getting their music back, or music being shelved, or being whatever you may have, whatever label horror story that could ever happen. I've heard it. And City Slang have been nothing but compassionate and kind and challenging and willing to compromise, and it's been an amazing working relationship.
Great. So Mia, looking forward to listening to the album and to see you live here in Mexico. Do you have any plans?
Not yet, but hopefully very soon.
You have to come, right?
I would love to. Absolutely love to.
Well, in the meantime, we will listen Death of a Cheerleader, the new Pom Pom Squad album, on June 25. We can watch your videos through YouTube. And we'll be aware about your next single. And really, you have to come to Mexico. I love your music, and I really want to see you live here.
Thank you. I want to see us live there too.
Great. So, Mia Berrin from Pom Pom Squad, thank you so much.
Plataforma de información musical y radio online. Rutas Alternas. Escucha.